Hi there. Welcome to the Sober Circle channel. Enjoy this speaker tape.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Sonny, and I'm an alcoholic. It's good to be here. Hell, it's good to be anywhere. Clean and sober and free. It ain't always been that way. Over in Scottsdale, I go to a meeting over there, and it's my home group. It's the North Scottsdale. And there's a lot of people from San Francisco who come and visit us over there when it gets too wet over here. But I think this year they brought the goddamn rain with them. And I asked them where this place was. And some of them told me. They had been through this town. They didn't know the meeting, but they'd been through the town. And I want to tell you that it's good to be here. You know. And I want to tell you, I speak all over the country. And at conventions and all that shit. But when we pulled up here tonight, and I looked at the people standing out front, I felt like I was home. This is the kind of meeting that I got sober in, down in Southern California. And I look around this room and I see a bunch of old ex-convicts in here. And, you know, and if I got you wrong, some of you ain't ex-convicts. If you keep fucking around, you're going to be. And, you know, it's just good to be here. It's good to be any place, clean, sober, and free. And we were sitting at the hotel tonight waiting for Mark to come and pick us up, and the cop car pulled up out front. And I thought, what a trip, man. I know that son of a bitch ain't here for me. And that's good. And Jenny asked me, said, are you nervous? I said, yeah. I always get nervous before I speak. And my sponsor told me, said, when you quit being nervous, then you stop speaking. Because all it is after that is ego. And at dinner tonight we were talking about how much I speak. I speak an awful lot. An awful lot. And it's my way of giving back to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous what was given to me. Yeah. When I came here, if you asked me to get up and read something, I'd want to whoop your ass. If you asked me to get up and say something, I'd want to whoop your ass. God had another idea. Because He ain't let me shut up for a long time. And I want to tell you that I speak a lot down in Texas. And in Texas they have a thing that if you don't tell them your sobriety date, it means that you probably ain't got one. And my sobriety date is July 1, 1976. And on the 1st of July this year, I will celebrate 22 years. And that hand clapping is for you. And people just like you all over this country, because you are the ones who keep me sober. You and God and the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Because if I didn't have you, and I didn't have God, and I didn't have this program, I sure as hell would not be here. I am not going to delude myself on that kind of shit. I want to tell you that I spent 25 years of my life in prison. 2.5 of that was spent on death row. And I got mixed emotions about being here, as far as that goes, you know. And I want to tell you that these are the weirdest goddamn balloons I have ever seen. I was just telling Frank, I've seen a lot of balloons, but I ain't never seen any of them hanging. You know? I always see them where they're up in the air, you know what I mean? Not hanging down. And I was tripping on that sitting there, and I thought there was something wrong with me. Boy, I thought, wait a minute. You know, it's just that it's so close to everything that has been that part of my life. And tomorrow, before we go back to Snootsdale, we're going to go to San Quentin, and I want to get some pictures taken over there. Because I spoke over in Sacramento, and we went out to Folsom and had some pictures taken out there. And I don't ever want to forget where I came from. And if you're new here tonight, don't you ever forget where you came from. Don't ever forget that last drunk or that last high. Because they told me when I got here that if you ever forget that shit, you're destined to go back and do it again. And boy, I don't want to go back and do that again. If you're sitting here new tonight, man, I understand how you feel. And I want to tell you that I don't ever want to feel like that again. I don't want to have to go through all of those emotions. I sponsor people now that I look at them and think, Jesus Christ, thank you, God. Thank you that I don't have to do that in my life anymore because of what this program's done for me, what it's given me. I'm kind of fishing around because I don't know where to start. People have come up to me and talked to me, and Mark's run around and told everybody parts of my story, I guess. And, in 21 plus years, a lot of things happen in sobriety. But I want to take you back to when I drank and I used. I had a school teacher that turned me on and turned me out. And I've had a thing for school teachers ever since. She gave me my first drink and gave me my first joint to smoke. And that was at 8 years old. And at 9 years old, I got locked up. I was declared incorrigible, was locked up, and was in the system from then till I was 39. And I went through the whole 9 yards of all that bullshit. I was convicted of first-degree murder, 3 counts of first-degree murder, and 2 counts of mayhem. Found guilty, never thought anything of it, because I was loaded all the time that I was in jail and when I was going to court. I had an attorney that would come up and hug me and kiss me and give me drugs. And so I stayed loaded all the time. I really never knew nothing about the case until I got to Quentin, and I was on the road, and they sent me my court transcripts, and I read them. And out of all the shit that I read in there, my own conclusion was, well, if them assholes had left me alone, they'd be alive and I wouldn't be here. Not one time did I ever think that I had a problem with drugs or alcohol. Not one. I thought if you had a problem with it, that meant that you was on the nickel down there in L.A. I never had that problem. Or that you couldn't get any. I never had that problem. I always was able to get it. Yeah. After 2.5 years on the road, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the penalty phase of my case and said I was too young. They took me off of the road and gave me life without possibility. And then in 1969, the Federal District Court in California heard my case one more time, and they took the life without possibility away and gave me straight life. In 1976, I was in a joint called Tehachapi, weirdest goddamn camp I'd ever been in. They had 82 guys in the dorm. I hadn't done any dorm living since I was a juvenile. And they were all murderers and shit, at least they thought they were. And I didn't like being there. But they passed a law called SB 42, which overhauled the judicial system in the state of California as far as sentencing and stuff goes. And I never really paid that much attention to it. And on July the 1st of 1977, I stood up in a meeting, much like this one inside the prison, and took a year cake that the guys had smuggled out of the bakery, and the guy that was supposed to be my sponsor had brought in a piece of candle that had been used at a birthday meeting the night before, and stuck it in the middle of it and lit it, and I blew it out, and the tears ran down my cheeks. 6 days later, on July the 7th of 1977, I was standing in the entrance building, being released under that new law. People said, God, you got lucky, Sonny. I said, no, I didn't. I didn't have luck. It didn't have a goddamn thing to do with it. God did. God went and done a lot of things, changed a lot of things just to get me out of prison. You know, and it don't mean that I'm anybody special other than any of you in here, more than you in here. The whole thing was that that's what it took for me to get out of prison. And I walked out of the penitentiary that day. A couple old boys from Bakersfield come and got me. And when I was sitting there, I didn't know where I was going to go or what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And the lieutenant walked over and said, "Sonny, this guy coming across the parking lot's coming to get you." And I said, "What makes you think so?" He said, "Because he's the only son of a bitch that's come up here this morning that looks like you." And I got up and hung down there and walked in, threw his arms around me and told me, "Come on, asshole, you don't live here anymore." And I walked out of the penitentiary for the last time. And when I came out of the penitentiary, I had hair that I could sit on, and I had a beard that laid in my lap when I sat down. And I didn't think I was any different from anybody else. Until I got into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and everybody was staring at me. And I walked over to this one guy and I asked him, I said, "What the fuck are you looking at?" And he just smiled and turned around and walked away. And the guy that was my sponsor at the time was a little short, fat, bald-headed guy named Bill Honeycutt from Long Beach. And he said, "Come on over here, asshole, and sit down and leave these people alone." And so I walked over and sat down. My hair was so long that I would sit on it, it would pull it, so I would throw it over the back of the chair. And a whole bunch of women came and sat in the chairs right behind me, and they were fondling my hair. At that time, I really wasn't one of them touchy-feely type dudes, you know. And I guess I said a lot of real inappropriate things, but it didn't stop them from it. They kept fucking with my hair. And then Bill decided that I needed a haircut. And he told me, "You're lucky because this girl volunteered to cut your hair." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said that she would be willing to do it. Well, Bill intimidated the shit out of this girl. She had a shop. I'd never been in a women's beauty shop in my goddamn life. And I told him, "You got to be out of your mind. I'm not going to no woman's beauty shop. What if somebody sees me and, excuse me, it's closed, and nobody that you would know would be looking in there anyway?" See? God had a way of putting those kind of people in my path when I first got out of the joint. For every question I had or every solution I had, I thought I had, they had the answer. And Bill was one of those guys. And I got up there in that chair and I knew why that girl volunteered to cut my hair, because she didn't have any. That son of a bitch, her hair was so short. You had to look at her twice to find out if she was a woman or not. You know? And she volunteered to cut my hair, and she was cutting my hair, and she butchered the shit out of it. But I found out later on, because I saw her in a meeting a couple of years later, and she told me that, you know, Bill had asked her to do it, and she was scared to death. She was absolutely petrified when she was cutting my hair. And while I was in the chair and she got the hair cut, Bill said, "You might as well get that beard cut off." I told him, "You're out of your goddamn mind. I've never drank behind my beard." He said, "Yeah, either get it cut off or get drunk. One of the two." And I thought about it a while, and I said, "Well, I don't want to get drunk, because I know if I get drunk, I'm going back to the joint, and I don't want to go back to the joint. Fuck the beard. Let's cut it off." So I cut it off. And I could not for the life of me understand why he wanted me to do all that shit. I couldn't understand what that had to do with staying sober. A couple of years later, we were sitting in a meeting. He was sitting next to me, and I was sitting there and I was thinking, you know, like we do when we're new. And it dawned on me what happened. And I said out loud, "That son of a bitch." And I turned and I looked at him, and he had a big smile on his face. It's like he knew what I was thinking. But sponsors have that, you know, with them, about them. And pretty soon he said, "What's going on?" I said, "I know now why you had me cut my hair and my beard. Because without the beard and without the long goddamn hair, there was only Sonny. The mask was gone. Now I got to deal with what's here. See? And that's what I've been doing over the years. I want to tell you that I got married. I was sitting in a meeting one night and I saw a guy come in with his old lady and a kid, and I thought, God damn, that's what I need. An old lady and a kid and a house in the suburbs and all that shit. That'll work for me. You know, we're new and we think a lot. And so I got introduced to this girl that had a little boy, and we got married. Lasted 7 months. I had no idea what I was thinking. When you spend 25 years sleeping in a bed by yourself, and you get in a bed with a woman who wants to be all over you all goddamn night long, you know, if they ain't up against you, they've got their hand on you. Just make sure you don't go nowhere. And it just drove me goddamn insane. So when we got done with sex, I'd go lay on the couch and go to sleep. And she got to thinking something was wrong with her. After 7 months of that shit, I got tired of it. And she said something to me one day, and I started to hit her. And I remembered something that a friend of mine told me. He's been in the program now 50 years, coming on 51. He told me, he said, Sonny, you don't hit people in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. He said, they're all God's kids. He said, and that girl's giving you a hard time, you tell her you're going to the store. I said, store? He said, yeah. I said, what for? Because she's going to ask me why. He said, go tell her you're getting some bread and milk. And don't go back. So one day she came home and said, my sponsor told me to tell you. And I said, no, hold it just right there. Wait until I get back. And she said, well, where are you going? I said, I'm going to the store. I'm going to go get some bread and milk and I'll be back. I haven't been back since. And I did it one more time because I got married again like an idiot. You know, and I left. And now I speak at conventions all over and I run into them every once in a while. And we're the best of friends. Just the best of friends now. And they always say, Sonny, did you get the milk and the bread? Tell them, no, I ain't even found the damn store yet. I haven't been married or emotionally involved in a relationship other than with my program and with God and the people that I sponsor for 16 years. God damn, what a freedom that is. Now, I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that I haven't been laid in 16 years. I said I haven't been emotionally involved. And that's cool. See? I have a big old house that I live in. It's got a swimming pool in the backyard. And a bunch of old snooty neighbors and shit. And my insurance on my car don't cost much because of the neighborhood. You know. And I'm free. I can go and come like I want to. I don't have to ask anybody if it's all right to go do this or go do that. None of that shit. I'm single. And I speak all over the country. I get laid all over the country. And then I go home. You know, I go home and I have a good time. And that's the honest to God's truth. Somebody said, how can you be so goddamn happy, Sonny? I said, because I'm single. The only thing that people get upset about is their wives or husbands, their jobs, or money. I don't worry about money. I don't work, so I don't worry about my job, and I'm not married. So what the hell I got to worry about? Nothing. My life's pretty goddamn good.
It took me a long time around here to understand that. One of the guys I sponsor said, Sonny, can you talk to me about relationships? No. He said, but you've been here a long time. I said, well, that's why I can tell you no. I don't know nothing about relationships. Can you refer me to somebody? I said, no. Well, why not? Don't you know somebody that knows something about relationships? I said, not in this program. Now, if you want to go to a counselor or a therapist or something, you might get some help. But all you're going to get here is opinions. And I don't listen to opinions anymore. You know, I sit in meetings and I hear people get up to the podium and say, everything I'm going to say here tonight is my opinion. Then I go to sleep. You know, what I'm telling you here tonight is my experience, strength, and hope. Not opinion. I keep my opinions to myself. And if I say something here tonight that you think is my opinion, please come to me and afterwards and we'll talk about it. It's real simple. I know what works and what don't work. I know what's in the big book and I know what's not in the big book. I've sat in audiences just like this and heard people stand up here and quote the big book and don't know a goddamn thing about what they're talking about. And I sit there and think, what book are they reading? That ain't that big old blue book that I got. They don't say that. I was in Oklahoma City here a while back and speaking there at their convention, and one of the guys there said, Sonny, I got a gift for you. It's the last one made. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with it. It's the Concordance to Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a big book. Everything about Alcoholics Anonymous is in that book. Everything in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is in that book. And I have enjoyed spending hours going through that book, looking up stuff. And I find that a lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous take out of context. See? Out of context. I'll sit there and I'll say, wait a minute, there's something I'm thinking of, and it's about blah, blah, blah. And I go to the concordance and open it up, and I look it up, and it tells me what page, what paragraph, everything there is to know, and I go to the big book, and then I reread it. And when I go to meetings and people say something about what's in the book, I go home and I look it up. Been doing it for years. And that's how I know that most of the people are full of shit. Yeah. They got an idea and they run with it. But it's not fact. And if you want to prove all that shit, just check it out. I'm sponsoring a guy now that had 18 months in the program. Went back out and drank. He's back now. And he said, what do you want me to do? And I said, I want you to read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he came to me the second day he was reading, and he said, that's a marvelous book. I said, it is, isn't it? I said, you never read that book before, did you? And he said, no, I never had. In 18 months, he'd never read the book. He'd never worked a step. How in the hell was he going to stay sober? Yeah. I travel all over the country. I've been down to Australia and all that. I love going down there, and I knew that was God's will for me because Australia used to be just an island for convicts. You know, and I rationalized the shit out of that and knew I should stay there. But I love being here in this country, and I got a lot of friends down there. When I go to some states, I get the opportunity to go into the penitentiaries there. And I had the opportunity, speaking in Texas, I had the opportunity to go into Huntsville. Is there anybody in here that's ever been in Huntsville prison? All right. God damn, you look like it. Yeah. Boy, I know what you're talking about too, huh? Yes, Lord. And I've been down there, and I went in there to speak one time. And right here in the front row, they had a big black dude, probably the biggest sucker I had ever seen in my life. He must have been over 7 foot tall. Weighed at least 4.5, and was jet black. He was so black he was blue. And a scary looking sucker. You know what I mean? He had about 150 pounds of chain on him. And there was 3 or 4 goon squads standing around him. So I knew he was a special case. Yeah. And I started telling my story in there like I do sometimes, and it's a little bit different the way I tell it in there than I do out here. And I happened to look over at him towards the end of it, and he had these big, huge tears running off his cheeks, and I thought, oh, shit, man. I hope he's all right. You know, because a lot of times if a guy's crying, he's about ready to lose it. And then it dawned on me what was happening with him. He had heard the same message that I heard when I was in the penitentiary. And that was a message of hope. After I got done, I was standing there talking to a bunch of people, and the warden came up to me and he said, "Sonny, this guy wants to talk to you. Is it all right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he came up to me and he said, "Have you ever hugged a black person?" That's the nice way of putting it. But he said something else, and I had told him no, but if you want a hug, that's fine with me, but just keep your goddamn hands up above my waist. Because you look like you've been down a long time, and And he started to laugh. So he started to laugh. And he hugged me, gave me one of them old big bear hugs, and all that. We became friends. And you know, having spent 25 years in the penitentiary, I had a lot of prejudices, and I had a lot of things about people I didn't like and all that shit. But I'm going to tell you that since I've been in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't give a shit what color you are, what church you go to or don't go to or whatever. I don't give a goddamn. If I don't like you, I just don't like you. You know, it has nothing to do with anything else. And there's people that I don't like, and they know it. And they pray for me all the time. I get a lot of prayers to stay sober. And I told him, "You son of a bitch, if I ever get drunk, you're the first sucker I'm coming to." You know? And but you know, we started to. Every time I went to Texas, I went down there to see him and some of the other guys in there, and he got permission to write me. And through the mail, he was doing his steps. And it was a trip. Because, boy, he put me in the book. Heavy. He put me in the book heavy. And we worked those steps with him. I did. And he got done with the 3rd step, and the warden told him that he could call me twice a month. He'd go to the warden's office, and the warden would let him use the phone to call me. And last time he called me, he said, "I understand you're coming out here to Texas to speak again." And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "You're coming down?" I said, "Yeah, I'll be down there." He said, "Good, because I've got my 4th step done, and I want to share my 5th with you." I said, "All right." I went to speak in San Antonio, Texas, at a convention for judges, lawyers, and justices. That's a trip. I knew I didn't belong there. Yeah. And it turned out to be really, really strange. Because I went in there on Saturday night to speak, and they said, "You're going to sit at this table here, Sonny." And I looked around that table. And the governor of the state of Texas was sitting there. That crazy blonde-headed broad that run Texas for a while. One of the... Ann Richards, one of the nicest people I'd ever met in my life. Just really good people. And then there was the Chief Justice of the Texas Supreme Court sitting there, and his name was Oscar Mosley, which is pretty appropriate. And I spoke there, and then I went back up to my room after I came home that night, because we went out dancing and all that shit, and Ann got a guy in a Harley shop to open the shop up and give us a Harley Davidson, so I took her for a ride on it and all that. Just a wild night in Texas. And I got home, and the red light was on my phone, and I picked it up, and there said there's a message, and so I called the phone number, and it was the warden down there, and he told me that this guy had died. And he said there was a race riot, and he was involved in it. We had taken him out from selective custody and put him out in the yard with everybody else, and there was a riot, and he got killed. And I thought, God damn, man. You know. And so I went down there, and I went into the warden's office, and he said, here's the papers that he left for you. And so I was reading them, and I started to smile, and the warden says, what's so funny, Sonny? I said, it's not funny. I said, you know, I said, he's dead and all that shit, but he died a free man. You know, I said, he's dead and all that shit, but he died a free man. I said, what are you talking about? I said, he died a free man. How many people in here have done the fifth step? You all know what I'm talking about. Even locked up, doing forever, he was free because he'd done his fourth and was doing ready to do his fifth. And coming home on the plane, I was sitting there and I was going through those papers and looking at them, and the tears started running down my cheeks. And I fly so much that most of the time the stewardesses know who I am. You know, and they come over and talk to me. You'd be surprised how many stewardesses are in the program. You know. And they said, Sonny, are you all right? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. And she said, well, you're crying. I said, no, but these are tears of joy. They really are. A friend of mine died. I said, well, how can you get joy out of that? I said, because he died free. He died free. And that was my friend. He, the next time I went down there, I was speaking at another convention down there, and this black lady walked up to me and she said, are you Sonny? And I said, yeah. And she said, you know my son, so-and-so? And I said, yeah. And she gave me a big old hug. She said, I've been wanting to meet you for a long time. I said, you're the only person that he's ever really talked good about. I said, I don't know why I cussed at him all the time. She said that he loved you. You taught him a lot. And all that is passing on what's been taught me. What people who had took the time out to come into the penitentiaries and carry the message to me, that's all I've been doing. Yeah. I remember when I told this guy, I said, man, you got to tell me how this goddamn program works. And he said, Sonny, go get a book. Go get a book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I knew where one was at, but I was going to have to steal it. And I'd done that. I stole it. He told me, he said, you read that book and see if you can find yourself in there. And on my way home tonight, I'm going to pray to God that you do. And I started reading that book, and I didn't find me until I got to the jaywalker. And you know what? You can tell anybody to read that book, and they'll find themselves in there. And by God, if they don't find themselves in the jaywalker, they ought to give that book back and go and do some more drinking. Yeah. I haven't met an alcoholic yet that wasn't a jaywalker. And I found myself there, and I rolled over on my stomach that night and stared my head in that pillow, and I said, God, please, please help me. And he did. We all know that. We've all made that prayer. Otherwise, how'd you get here? You know. Person told me the other night, said, Sonny, God keeps closing the door on me. I said, you ought to be grateful. Go hit your knees tonight and tell God thank you. Because every time He closes a door on you, man, all you got to do is go down the hall a little ways and another door is going to open. He has never failed to open another door. And it's usually better than the one that He closed. I've had the opportunity to just go everywhere and meet so many people. We were talking tonight. I had a heart attack in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and wound up spending 10 days there in the hospital. And while I was in the hospital, half of Oklahoma was there, I think, and the other half was on phones. And I was getting calls from all over the country. And a buddy of mine who runs a halfway house in Tulsa brought a girl over who was young and new in the program and told her, said, you just sit here and answer the phone for as long as he's here. And after everybody left one evening, she was sitting there waiting for her ride to come and get her. And she said, Sonny, can I ask you a question? And I said, yeah. And what is it? She said, who in the hell are you? I said, darling, I'm just a goddamn drunk. That's all. She said, no, too many people know you from everywhere. And I said, honey, for 21 years I've been speaking at meetings all over the country. And I have friends everywhere. You know, and I want to tell you, if you're new here, nearly new in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, news travels fast in AA. Real fast. Because I was only in there for 10 days, and there was a phone call, and she said, you got a phone call from some guy named Sydney, or he's in Sydney. She said, I can't understand what the hell he's saying. And it was a friend of mine from Sydney, Australia, calling to find out if I was okay. I have a family in this program that's unbelievable. Unbelievable. I saw a couple people stand up as newcomers tonight, and for those of you that didn't stand up, that's okay. I never did stand up either. And sometimes it's real hard when you're on the bottom to feel humble. It's real easy to look up and say, when I get that bad. But I want to tell you that those of you that are new or nearly new here tonight, you're in for a hell of a ride. Hold on to your ass. Hold on to your ass. Get you somebody that's got some time in the program and stick to them. Stick to them. They didn't get time in this program by just horseshitting around. I know people that's got 6 or 7 months that are sponsoring people that are new. And it blows me away. That's like the blind leading the blind. I don't think they've ever read that pamphlet on sponsorship. Yeah. Get you somebody that has been here and been through some of those living situations that can kind of coach you down the road as we trudge. It don't say that we skip down this goddamn road. You know, we trudge down this road. And, you know, it's real hard sometimes. And I don't want somebody to try to tell me what's going on that hasn't been down the road. You know. I've got a sponsor now that in September will celebrate 50 years. And I love him to death. He's an old crotchety bastard, you know, but he's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Best thing that's ever happened to me. And then people say, Sonny, why you got that old man for a sponsor? Because he's been there. He's been there, done that, and got a T-shirt. See? That's it. Every sponsor that I have had has had a lot of time in the program. My first sponsor taught me about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. He told me it's a program of the heart. It's where the heart speaks and where the heart listens. And over the years, I've learned what that's all about. There's so many times I go into meetings and listen to people talk about shit from their head. But then you go into a meeting and you hear somebody that's speaking from the heart, and the whole room is quiet. And everybody's listening. And everybody's appreciating what's being said, understanding. He also taught me there's no such thing as a good or bad people in program of alcoholics. He told me, Sonny, he said, there's just people who know and people who don't know. And one day, if they stick around here, they will know. And how true that is. How true that is. Somebody came up to me the other night and said, see that girl over there, Sonny? She hasn't got any self-worth at all. I said, oh, how much did you have when you got here? Well, if you're going to jump on me about shit, nobody's jumping on anybody. Who in the hell are you to take somebody else's inventory? You know what I mean? I don't know. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. Frank knows the meeting that I go to when I'm there, if I'm not out of town. I sit back by the wall, the back of the meeting hall, in my chair, same chair, been sitting there for 5 years. And the speakers, I listen to them, and if I don't like what they're saying, I go to sleep. Just fall sound asleep. And one had the audacity to come up to me and say, Sonny, I'm sorry I put you to sleep. I said, me too. But it's people talking from their head and not from their heart. You don't have to perform to come up here. You don't have to impress anybody. I'm not here to impress anybody. When I leave here tonight, I'm going back to that hotel and put my head on that pillow and watch another porno movie. And I don't give a shit what you think about me. See? I don't have to live with none of you. And look at this room. Look around you. Who in the hell is here to be impressed? A room full of drunks and addicts. I'm here for me. And there's one person in this room who needed to hear what I had to say tonight. Just one person. If anybody else heard something here tonight, that's a bonus. But there's one person that needs to hear. That's why God brought me all the way here to do this. Plain and simple. It ain't about ego. It ain't about impressing people. It ain't about none of that shit. You know? I'm nothing special. All I am is Sonny, and I'm an alcoholic. That's all. Except for when I go to Texas. And they, boy... But that's Texas, and they do everything kind of large in Texas, you know. They'll come get me at the airport in limousines and shit like that. But I got one buddy in Dallas that when he comes to get me to the airport, he comes in a pickup. When I was up in San Quentin, right after I came off the row, I got involved in a race riot up there. This black guy stabbed me twice, and I chased him down and caught him and pulled his head back and stuck a knife in his neck, was trying to cut his head off. And they shot me twice. And that's when they transferred me from Quentin to Folsom. And locked me down in Folsom. After I'd been sober a while and was speaking, I think I had about 10 years in the program out here, and I was speaking different places, and then I got asked to speak down on in South Central LA on Figueroa, South Figueroa. And I told him, yeah. And I went down there. I drove down there by myself and pulled up in front of this club, looked around there, and I said, boy, this is out of pocket here. What the hell is AA? Ain't no big deal. I got out, and the guy was standing there, and he said, are you Sonny? And I said, yeah. And he said, I'll watch your car. I said, cool, thank you. Went inside and was getting me a cup of coffee. Looked around there, and the only thing white in there was me and them styrofoam cups. And this guy walked up to me, and he said, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, Sonny? And I said, yeah. I said, are you the secretary? What the hell were you going to do, run? You know, and he said, I'm taking a 7-year cake tonight, and I want to know if you'll give it to me. I don't know of any other program in this world that works like Alcoholics Anonymous. Not one. Him and I are the best of friends. He got married. He married a white girl, and he asked me to be the best man at his wedding. And I asked him, I said, well, what are your friends going to say? He said, they're going to say the same thing you're doing. Because all my friends are in AA. And that's the way my life's been since I've been here. Yeah. I don't care if you're black, white, or emerald green. Don't make no goddamn difference. You know. If you're trying to work a program of Alcoholics Anonymous, that's what counts. And if there's anything I can do to help you, man, I'm willing. I'm willing to help you. Yeah. And I got a couple friends, women friends that are black, and I've tried to hit on both of them, but they wouldn't go for it. And, you know, they just know I'm an asshole, and that's all right. I'm a better asshole today than I've ever been. And I know that. I love being sober. I love the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I love what it's done for me and to me. I love the freedom that I've gained from this program. And if you haven't got there yet, you ought to start working on it. There's a friend of mine that I don't see very often because he got involved in a relationship, and you know what happens there. We switch higher powers. And you know, his new higher power told him you don't need that many meetings. And I saw him at a meeting the other day, and I said, God damn, I thought you got well. He said, oh, Sonny, he said, I got this relationship, I got my job, I got the kids, I got this, I got that. I said, what do you got if you get drunk? He said, well, I lose it all. So what did you do to stay sober? All right, I understand. No, you don't. See, it's going to take one more trip to the goddamn meat grinder before you do. Then alcoholics do that. I want to tell you tonight, if you're new here, please stay here. It's a hell of a lot easier to stay here than it is to get here. Thank you for having me here tonight.
Thanks for listening. Please support the channel by liking and subscribing.